Hello, boils and ghouls. Welcome to episode 182 of Dads in the Crypt. My name is Jason. I'll be your host tonight. Joining me, we have the other Jody.
Hello, and I'll explain what that means later.
Yes. Yeah, these will all make sense. And then we have the not very tall man, Mondo.
Hello.
Hello. And from the Zombie Grrlz Network, we have Ariel.
Hello.
Hello. Hailing from currently the Salt Lake City, Utah greater area.
Yep, that's where I am. It's a culture shock.
I've never been, but I've seen SLC Punk many, many times, and I love that movie.
Oh, right.
been to
I
Salt
forgot
Lake.
that was, yeah.
We
I never really
went a
spent
few
much
years
time
ago.
there, but...
Like when my wife was pregnant with their first baby. Yeah, so like 18 years ago. It's been a long time. But yeah, no, we went. It was fun.
The first of many.
Yes, yeah, no, we have a collection now, but at the time we were just starting.
collection.
Downtown
They're
Salt
troll
Lake City
dolls or
was a lot of
something.
fun when I went, and it was nothing like I expected because it's a very Mormon state, so I thought it'd be very very. But the downtown is like college area, very progressive, and I had a great time.
Yeah, no, the downtown is cool. There's like a whole queer neighborhood there and queer bookstores and stuff. It's really nice. The suburbs like surrounding Salt Lake City to me seem like way more conservative and like the maybe Mormon to non-Mormon like ratio is a lot higher. Yeah.
Did you watch that true crime documentary Rachel was mentioning on last More Deadly?
I haven't gotten a chance to yet, but I have to.
It's also they have weird alcohol laws there, where if you go to a brewery,
Okay,
you can only,
yes.
I can buy a 16-ounce can of a 20% beer and drink it, but I can't but you can't pour a beer on tap that's more than 5%, I think.
Well, and you can't buy, it's not just like hard alcohol, it's also wine, champagne. You can't buy those unless it's in a state-run liquor store. So like I went to the grocery store to get some and you couldn't. I was like, I kept looking and then I realized everything was non-alcoholic. And I was like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, they had the same thing.
What the hell is this?
Yeah.
They had the same thing in Oregon where, you can only go to, except for beer and wine. You can buy those in
Beer and wine
in the
you
regular
could still
store.
buy in the grocery store. So I expected to
But
be
you
able to
could
get
buy-
like champagne, wine. Yeah.
Yeah, you can buy like hard liquor unless you went to the special stores. That was weird.
Yep.
Yeah, my high school in Oregon had a big Mormon population, just really randomly, and I was the token Jew, and they all thought I was so exotic for Oregon. That was
We
exotic.
still think you're exotic. We still think you're exotic.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So yeah, they were big fans of me for odd reasons, but
I just
we're not here to talk about Mormons, though.
I just remember that half the beers I picked up all had like jokes about Mormonism as like the name of the beer. Like, multi-wives
Oh, really?
IPA or something like that.
I know what you're thinking of. It was by Uinta Brewing, Polygamy Porter.
There we go. Polygamy Porter. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's good.
I like when they have a sense of humor. That's good.
Hmm.
Well, and they also made a beer called Doobie, which was a black ale with hemp.
Ooh.
Oh,
Ooh, that sounds
That was
good.
delicious. That one was
is
delicious.
weed legal there?
No. Well, I think you have to have if you have like a doctor card, like
Yeah,
a medical
yeah,
medical
I think
card.
Okay.
Just a reminder that throughout most of the United States, well, actually all the United States, other than the places that have banned it recently, there is a version of weed available to everybody that everyone can enjoy. Just saying, as somebody who lives in the South,
Oh,
there
right.
is a way to get it without being illegal.
I think yesterday Texas just completely banned all THC products, including Delta 8, Delta 9, and hemp.
It's not
Lame.
surprising. They're real stupid.
Well, speaking of altered states, let's talk about Phantasm because this movie is an altered state.
Yeah.
Before we go too deep, this is part of our partnership we're doing with Fright Rags because they have some really cool Phantasm shirts. If you're watching on YouTube, Mondo's showing off his pecs and his amazing Phantasm t-shirt. We are doing a giveaway for a gift card to Fright Rags for anyone that is subscribed to our Patreon on a paying tier, so at least $1 and above. The higher level, the more entries you get into the drawing. You also can get extra points by doing a Apple iTunes review, or whatever they call it for podcasts, Apple Podcasts, I think. So this episode comes out on the Monday, the next Friday, so 4 days, 5 days, whatever. After this episode comes out, I'll be doing the official drawing. So this is your last warning to get in on that. So if you've been on the fence and you want a Fright Rag t-shirt, I have my Good, the Bad, the Ugly t-shirt. It's a great time to hop in and get some cool shit. If you don't like Phantasm, they have plenty more. If you listen to this podcast, you'll like Fright Rags, trust me.
And if you don't like Phantasm, why?
This is a movie that I think everyone can appreciate. It might not be your cup of tea, but you can appreciate this kind of filmmaking. We'll get more deeper into that. This movie, actually, when this episode comes out, it'll be like 1 day shy of its anniversary. It came out on March 28th. So this episode will come out, I think, on March 26th or 27th. This came out March 28th, 1979, not 97. Jody, I'm really excited to hear you explain this movie to me.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the idea of explaining Phantasm. We could do a very long podcast just explaining what the hell is happening in this movie, especially if you start talking sequels. It's impossible. I don't think anyone can explain it. But I watched this movie with my daughters who had no idea what they were getting into, and I gave them genuinely no explanation, or they had never heard of the silver spheres or any of it. It was all brand new. So this was exciting. What I forgot was we open in a graveyard, and in the very first scene, there are boobs and murder as a lady who sometimes is a lady, sometimes flashes over to a brief glimpse of Angus Scrim, the tall man, who is a mortician in the area. So I'm not going to go into all the details of this movie. I'm just going to kind of try to hit the high points. We got three main characters. There's a young boy, 13 years old, named Michael, his older brother, Jody, which I also got to annoy my children while watching, because I would say things like, Jody's the best. Everyone loves Jody, right? Jody's going to go save the day. Jody's always the hero, and I just kept doing that. They love
Jody's going to leave you after your parents are dead.
Such a dad joke. I love it.
If we find Jody smothered with a pillow in the morning, we understand why.
Yep. And then Mr. Reggie Bannister, who is the local ice cream man, who is rocking the bald head and the ponytail in a way that only Reggie Bannister can. Most people, it looks ridiculous, but on Reggie, I'll give it to him. I'll let him do it. It fits. So you got these three guys. Michael and Jody's dad parents have recently died, and they are buried in this cemetery that is connected to a giant funeral home run by a very tall man who just goes by the tall man, or actually doesn't go by anything in this movie. They just call him the tall man from time to time. But it's a very tall guy who has a very rough, gravelly voice. And after their friend has a funeral, their friend is killed in the very first scene, they have the funeral, and Michael's hanging around afterwards, and he sees the tall man come and pick up the heavy casket, which I just was a pallbearer last month. Carrying a casket feels like the biggest responsibility on earth, because you do not want to drop it, but they're very, very heavy. The tall man picks it up, no problem, throws it into the back of the hearse, taking the body with him. And so Michael's understandably freaked out. He tries to tell Jody about what's going on, but Jody doesn't really think much of it. And then later, Jody meets the same girl that we saw in the beginning, and goes out to the graveyard with her, just like the dead man in the first scene does. And at that point, Michael is peeking through the bushes, being a real creep. Like he is staring at this entire scene of his brother and a topless woman. But it doesn't last very long because a little tiny hooded figure chases him in the bushes while growling. And that convinces Jody. Reggie's on board like from the get-go as soon as something weird starts happening. Trying to think how far I want to go with this. The tall man gets some fingers cut off and Michael collects one of them, and then it turns into a fly monster and flies around the house, and that's what convinces Reggie. I will tell you what's going on later. Let's not get into that yet. But there is a whole explanation for this. Does it make any sense? I don't know, but we'll get into that.
I'm really impressed so far, by the way. You're
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, you made that so coherent.
Well, the first part starts. I feel like it's fairly coherent as far as like building up this mystery, but then once you start getting the reveals, it's so bizarre and so strange. I haven't even mentioned the fact that at one point in the mausoleum or in the funeral home, these silver spheres fly through the air and Michael dodges them, but they hit another guy who works at the funeral home.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's got big like jagged spikes that come out of it and they go into his forehead, and then a little drill comes out, drills into him, and then drains the blood directly out of his head in a big fountain. And there is zero explanation for that. That just happens. It just happens in the movie. I know there's more in the sequels, but like as far as this movie goes, they just exist. So yeah, there's a lot in this movie. This movie is a lot in a lot of good ways.
All right. Thank you, Jody. Ariel, you're a guest. Start us off. What do you think?
Okay, so I had not seen this movie in over 20 years, I think. I'm pretty sure I know like the full trilogy in high school, but I don't think I've seen any of them since then. I know there are like some ones that happened just a few years ago, but I never watched those. I have like a fond memory of watching them because I had a friend who worked at like a little independent video store, and I used to go there and he would like recommend movies to me that I hadn't seen yet, horror movies. And this was one of the ones that he was like, you have to see this. And I remember at the time being confused by some of the things that happened in the movie. But also like loving kind of how weird it is. And I think that still holds true for me today. Like, there are parts of this movie that if you asked me to explain why something happened, I don't think I could give you an answer that would make a whole lot of sense. But I still have such a good time watching it. I think the tall man is awesome. I mean, he's so good at being like captivating and creepy at the same time. I love the weird kind of 70s dreamlike quality that this movie has, and also just like, feathered hair and bell bottoms and stuff are always fun. Coolest weapon, I mean, it's so creative and cool and interesting. I don't know. I mean, I think there are some faults in this movie and some places where it maybe could have been improved, but I love the kind of like scrappy filmmaking, like independent weird horror movies that we used to get. I feel like although we get a ton of independent movies these days, there's not that same kind of like guerrilla filmmaking quality that you got in the like mid to late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, and this movie doesn't really fit into, I don't know what genre you classify this as. Like,
Yeah.
it was definitely a time where you weren't like, okay, you're a slasher, a ghost, an animal attacks. Like, it's just kind of like doing its own thing.
Mm-hmm. Once we get into the explanation, like, I mean, this could be a sci-fi movie. It could be a fantasy movie because it's almost like too weird for sci-fi. That horrific things happen. Like, I don't even know what genre you would necessarily put. I guess horror, just because the graveyard and spookiness, but it's hard to quantify. I kind of
feel like horror fans might be the only ones to really dig this movie too.
Right.
Right.
Like, I don't know if your average fantasy or sci-fi fan, like people who were there for like the Dune reference or something, I don't know if they're gonna jive with the rest of the movie.
Oh boy.
All right, Mondo.
I adore this movie. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. I had the pleasure, I think I mentioned it before, of sitting next to Don Coscarelli when they screened it in Vegas, and he did a Q&A afterwards. And it was the coolest thing hearing him chuckle at different parts of the movie that weren't necessarily funny, but he was just having memories of shooting it and what they had to go through. And a few things, like I think Angus Scrimm is an all-time great horror actor, where he just has this menacing presence. And they do a couple really amazing shots. I think one when he is walking through the town, and he
Yeah, I
stops
love
by
it.
Reggie Bannister's ice cream, and he
So
stops
good.
and just looks at Michael,
Yeah,
and then they do.
with the smoke
Fog
or
coming
the
off.
Yeah.
yeah, it's so
You
cool.
can actually visit that ice cream shop. It's that whole strip is still exists. It's by San Diego. I go to San Diego quite often, so I really need to stop by and check it out. And the other scene I love with the tall man is when he's looking through the antique photos at the antique shop, and he sees the tall man with the horse and buggy, and then it turns into the live image where he just again turns and looks at him, and
That still
just
looks
amazing.
great today,
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Yeah, it's so well done. The soundtrack on this is a freaking
Yeah.
banger, as the kids say nowadays. It definitely has some Italian vibes, and that main hook is out of this world good. It does have some weird stuff, but I love the weirdness of it. Like I love at the beginning the coital scene where he turns into the tall man, but it is weird. But and you see, and this is how you know that the tall man is not completely heartless. Because he lets Tommy finish before he kills him.
So generous of him.
Yeah. He's like, you're going to die in a high here. Just as soon as you see my old decrepit face. You'll die in a high. The other wacky thing I love is the hearse. When he shoots a gun off in the back of the hearse, which would have made everybody deaf, and the tall man apparently doesn't notice this happen. And the tall man drives the hearse into a telephone pole, and it explodes like it was a Cybertruck. That's absolutely one of my other favorite parts of this entire movie. And then the ending is very obtuse, whereas I still don't know for sure if the original intention was to make this a long, like, nightmarish dream because of like him dealing with the death of his parents. But later on, all the events in the movie do become canon in the later sequels. So I kind of wonder, like, seeing this back in the 70s and not knowing there's going to be a sequel. I wonder if how people kind of took that ending, if it was well received or poorly received. But yeah, I love Phantasm, love this movie, and it's very, very high on my my list of all time favorite movies. I haven't watched it in like 2 years, which is surprising for me. And I just watched it this afternoon and had just the best time all over again.
Nice. Yeah, this is a movie I've been very familiar with. Like, I remember back in the early 2000s, I got like a DVD of like clips of horror movies, like best of, kind of like a compilation. And like the sphere scene was one of them. And you saw pictures and clips and stuff with the tall man. And for whatever reason, I just never watched it until like 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I realized I think we were talking about blind spots in movies we haven't seen. And this was like my most obvious one. So I made a mistake and took a gummy beforehand.
Oh, no.
That's not a mistake. That is not a mistake for this movie.
Well, no,
Yeah, I don't
because
think so
the
either.
movie is so surreal and dreamlike already. I almost fell asleep. Like, I had to like rewatch it the next day, like parts of it the next day, because I couldn't figure out what I was actually like dreaming, or like, I think I was kind of in and out, because even watching this completely, sober, it puts you almost in a trance, because like, that score is so good, but it just kind of like tickles that part of your brain that makes you kind of like feel like you're kind of in a dream state. It's if like prog rock, like 70s prog rock was a movie, this would be it.
Like I haven't read about it, but there's no way that the God, I forgot the guy's name that did the soundtrack on it, but there's no way that he wasn't somewhat influenced by those 70s Italian films, because there's definitely some Goblin and some Fabio Frizzi sprinkled in that soundtrack.
Yeah, I think
Don
visually too, there's a
Caffarelli-
lot of giallo,
Yeah, Don
definitely.
Caffarelli said Suspiria was like a huge influence on this movie.
I can see
That makes
that.
sense. Yeah.
Along with like Dune and those little Huda guys definitely look like Jawas.
Yes. That's why I always
He
call
came
them.
up with it before he saw Star Wars. This is also a movie that he made like over a year on the weekends and stuff. It's very kind of Evil Dead in that way, where it's just kind of like friends. It has that feel, I think, where friends getting together and doing like a passion project. And Angus Scrum has a huge reputation of being like the nicest guy at convention. Him and Reggie had like a huge, like, big following at conventions, always doing autographs. They rarely charged anything.
Don Coscarelli tells a story about the first day of shooting. They got Angus Scrim all put into makeup and then had him sit in this hot attic for like 12 hours and then didn't need him on the first day.
Oh, no.
So they were all saying, "Oh God, who's going to go tell Angus?" And Don's like, "I'll go tell him." Because he talks about how he walked up into the attic just terrified at how his guy was going to react, and he's sitting there just with that cold, tall man stare. And Don's like, "Hey, I'm sorry, we don't need you today." And he goes, "Okay, that's no problem. I'll come back. I'll see you tomorrow." Like,
Yeah.
he's the nicest guy.
Aw.
Well, and Angus Scrim is actually his stage name because he was mostly a theater actor, and I guess there was something about like where he couldn't be in the movies at the same time, where he didn't want to like be outed for being in a low budget horror movie. So he came up with a whole like other profile for that work. But yeah, this movie is very dreamlike. I don't know what any of it is, but it's also like, movies are kind of a dream anyways, or it's like, it's kind of a make believe image, like stream of consciousness that a director is putting on. So it's like kind of almost taking a step back from that and just kind of, okay, we're just going to lean into that. Don Coscarelli was very young when he made this too. His first movie, he was only 19 and he made a movie for a major studio. It's like one of the youngest directors of all times.
What's crazy too is his mom actually wrote the novelization of this.
Oh, really? That's cool.
And apparently explains like different characters and more of the backstory. I've never read it, and I just learned this today, so I need to seek that out.
Well, yeah, and she was she did a lot of production stuff on this movie, like under pseudonyms. So she was very involved. Yeah, it feels very much like a family affair. Like there's that awesome scene where they just like Reggie and Jody just break out their guitars and just jam.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's one of my favorite scenes of this whole
movie.
Yeah.
It's so organic. I absolutely love that.
So there's all of these great little character scenes, but then we're getting this like really crazy ass fantastical stuff where there's like, a room with like all these like barrels and they're like full of bodies, and we see like.
Do you want me to get into an explanation?
Okay, Jody, take us off.
All right, so the tall man is stealing bodies from the graveyard, including their friend Tommy, who we see again later. But also Michael and Jody's parents are not in their coffin when they look. Anyway, he's stealing bodies and somehow crushing them down and making them shorter. That's why the little Java people are in these robes. They are the dead bodies reanimated. But the reason they're smushed down is they are being shipped in barrels to another dimension, planet, something like that. It's a red planet. And the gravity is so heavy there that our skinny little human frames would not work. So they have to be smushed down into like dense little Jawa people. And they're working as slaves there doing something. I don't know what they're doing. That part I don't have. They are slaves on this red planet. And their little compact bodies can handle the gravity up there. So all of that makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, I wonder if like the tall man was short in his world, and when he came to Earth, he like expanded.
He just like accordioned out.
Yeah, exactly.
When they're showing that other dimension, and you're seeing, I'm like, it looks pretty chill action that dimension.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can throw a hammock over there and just take a nap. It'd be great. Like I'd be down.
One of the other things I love about this movie is the original cut was 3 hours.
I want to see that.
And then they actually took a lot of they thought they lost the footage. And then like in the mid 90s, when this was kind of like becoming a home video, a direct to video property, they found a bunch of that footage and like, okay, we'll just throw it together and we'll film some new stuff. And we'll have all these flashbacks. And that's what the fourth movie is.
Okay.
All this footage, then it really confused people because like they have this original footage that looks same as the original Phantasm, but none of it's in the original movie, so people were all very confused. There's like a scene where they try to hang the tall man. I was just watching some stuff on YouTube. There's all these other plot lines because like Reggie Bannister's like character is very small in this movie, so I think a lot of it probably got cut out because he becomes like the main focal point of the rest of the series.
Well, this is another one of the. Go ahead.
When he's on screen, though, he's definitely chewing up the scenery. It's no doubt why people latched onto that character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you had like a 3-hour movie and you cut it in half, like I think it makes a lot of sense to me now why some of this movie just feels like a collection of scenes that don't necessarily all tie together perfectly,
Well, and this is one of those series where the same actors kept coming back over and over again. I think there's a different Michael in the second one, but other than that, like your core people are still the same guys through this whole series.
That's cool.
And so it's kind of like Child's Play in that I just love the idea that these guys keep coming back to this property, and those characters keep being the same characters who you fell in love with the first time.
Well, even outside of the movie world, Reggie Bannister's wife, Gigi, wrote the sequel to Oblivion like last year. I think it came out like early last year, called Survival, which is the sixth installment of Phantasm. But I just thought it was cool that Reggie, like, it's like all how you have this, like you mentioned, this whole world of all these different movies, and you see these recurring actors, and the mother director writes a novelization, and the wife of the main actor writes. It's just really cool to see.
Yeah, I love it when, especially in horror, where there's like these like little mini pocket communities, kind of like with Don Mancini and Child's Play, like you mentioned, how he has like the same kind of repertoire of actors, so, and they kind of expand with Fiona Dorff, gets brought into the fold. It's just it really comes across on screen that these people are really good friends and they're enjoying what they're doing. There's a cohesiveness that really helps.
It's one of those. Go ahead.
I was like, one of the biggest you brought up Devon Sawa. I was like, one of the biggest tragedies of Chucky not being renewed is seeing who Devon Sawa is going to play in the next season.
It's so disappointing.
And obviously, no Jennifer Tilly always upsets me, but that's that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not watching The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I'm like, I just can't do it.
There is a limit.
If Rachel was here, she would give you a speech about why it would be worth your time.
I'm gonna binge a series this weekend.
Talk about it it's no for the love of Dilfs, but yeah. Just to talk about Don Coscarelli for a minute, he's had a really interesting career because he's offered a lot of really big stuff. He was offered like Nightmare 2 and a bunch of other like big name horror movies, but he just kind of wants to do his own thing. He did like the Beastmaster, Bubba Hotep, and unless I'm missing one. Yeah, his last big movie was a movie called John Dies at the End.
Solid movie.
I didn't know that was
that
him.
movie.
Yeah,
it's really good.
And I remember I read the book just based on the title right before the movie came out, and I was like blown away. So he just kind of like, you know what, I'm just gonna do the stuff I want, and I'm not gonna let like any of these big studio stuff kind of dictate how I'm gonna do it.
Because those are all kind of weird choices, like offbeat movies,
And again, according to IMDb, I forgot, I think Dimension or Miramax, something like that, wanted to buy the series and completely reboot it. But he wanted it to be like, he wanted to keep the same actors because I think he wanted to get them paid and stuff. So he wanted to do like what do they call it? Like a legacy sequel where they had the kind of actors kind of handing stuff off. So so he just said, no, if you're not going to have them in it, you can't have it.
Wow.
Respect.
Yeah, no
exactly.
kidding. Nobody has that kind of integrity in Hollywood, That's impressive.
Jody, I'm going to see your overall thoughts.
Oh, yeah. So I was kind of like you, Jason. This is one that I have been aware of for a very long time, but I never watched until 2000, I think. So about 5 years ago. And I
your
wish
math
I
is
had
a little off on
Yeah,
that.
you're 2000.
Sorry, 2020. 2020.
There you
I was
go.
thinking the same thing.
I
Like,
was 20 years off.
that's good. It's been a fever dream, much like Phantasm. So
That's right. That's right. From 2020 on, I have had no idea what's going on. So yeah, that all fits. But no, I didn't watch it until 2020. It was my first watch. But I really wish I had seen this like at 14. Like I wish this was a movie that I like stumbled across in the movie store at 14. It seems like it'd be perfect for that. But even watching it, kind of aware of the whole thing and aware of the characters and the silver spheres and everything, I still really enjoy it. This movie it's got so much atmosphere. Even when things aren't making sense, you can just kind of get lost in the vibes of this movie, between the tall man just being super menacing, and even the little, like the Jawa people should be silly, but it's not. Like it's done in a way that it's just on the edge of silly, but not all the way there. Like it's not a parody. So I feel like it really makes things work, and it does have that dreamlike quality to it that Jason said he made a mistake of taking an edible before watching it. I feel like that's one of the best ways to watch this because that's how I watched it this time. And yeah, you could just kind of get lost in it. It's a kind of movie that, it's an experience as much as it is anything. And like I said, I watched with my daughters this time, and they had no idea. I didn't tell them anything about it. Just, hey, we got to watch this for the podcast. You want to join me? And yeah, I think they had a good time with it. I was like, "What'd you think about that?" She said, "It was very weird." I'm like, yeah, it is.
It really feels like that labor of love, like Jason said. It's just it's got that indie charm to it that you really got from that time period. And funny thing is, I actually didn't before I ever watched the movie. There's a band I actually did a long time ago for Song of the Day, Entombed, and the song Left Hand Path that uses the theme as a hook in the middle of the song. Like the song just stops and it's a pure interlude of the theme. And I heard that song before I ever watched the movie. So when I saw the movie, I was like, it's that Entombed song. And but obviously that song came out 14 years after the movie came out. But I just thought that was kind of a cool thing where nowadays people just pick that stuff up right away and it's all over the internet. So it's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, at least according to IMDb, a lot of metal bands have used like snippets and clips from
There's a cool website called Who Sampled,
Mm-hmm.
and you can punch it in. I was looking at it earlier, and there's all kinds of hip hop artists, every genre that's used music from this soundtrack.
Yeah, or like quotes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just going back to the Sphere for a second, like it's amazing how iconic that is. It's only in it for like 2 scenes very, very quickly. But it's such a cool effect because I was reading how they do that. They just kind of take the ball, they throw it in front of the camera, and they play it in reverse. So the ball looks like it's coming at the camera.
Oh, that's cool.
That's so clever. It's so
like
simple,
it looks really good. Like it's still for a 1979 effect. Like it looks great.
Yeah, and then when it goes like into the guy's head, they're actually pulling it off. Again, they're playing it in reverse.
I like that. That's cool.
And then I love like the
posted a few years back. There's a cosplay at a convention he was at where someone cosplayed with the ball stuck in his head and a stream of blood coming out of it.
Oh, cool.
It was like one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
And then again, I love the whole mausoleum setting. I don't know if I've ever really been to a mausoleum, but like it's cool though. When I read that none of that stuff was real. It's all just like fake wallpaper.
Oh.
That they printed
I
out
didn't
to
know
look
that.
marble.
Really? Shit, it really looks like marble.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because they couldn't film in that nice little mausoleum, and they couldn't build one, so you can't tell on camera.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that makes it even better knowing that they just kind of like it's just like a magic trick.
That's what I was just about to say. Movies from this era where they were doing cool effects, like on a shoestring budget, always feel like magic tricks. Like every moment that you see something cool like that. Yeah.
It's amazing how much they were able to do with so little money back then and how little people are able to do these days with so much money. Like there's a scene in this movie where the car blows up. I think Mondo, you were talking about it earlier, and it looks great, right? Like it's a great scene. Yeah. I was watching an episode of I think it was like White Collar on Netflix the other night, and a car blows up, and like it's so cheesy looking because it was all done with CGI, and 15 years later or something, it doesn't hold up at all. So I love be
willing to blow up a real car. You have to
commit. It's not only blow up a car. It's in this movie, you can tell there's a lot of quick cuts, so you don't actually see that much, which again lets the mind fill in the blanks. Which is better than anything they can come up with.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays too, some of these studios are in such a crunch when it comes to time that I think that's why they lean so heavy on CGI. But in my opinion, CGI fire, if it looks bad, it takes me out of the movie completely.
Yeah, it's
I can't deal with it. And it's kind of crazy. I was even watching the trailer for the new Jurassic Park coming out, and the dinosaurs don't look as good as the original because they're trying to make it in a third of the time it took them to make the original. It's like we've said before, but these practical effects, I think they'll stand the test of time. Because even if don't look amazing, like Jody said, it's like a magic. Whoever says someone says it's like a magic trick, and I think there's always going to be that respect for it there. Like the fact that you know what they went through.
Well, because your mind still knows something's really there. You can tell in the computer that there's nothing, there's no soul to it, or there's no like there's nothing tangible about it.
Right.
Yeah, it
So
has
even
no
a
real
bad,
weight
I'd rather
or
have a bad
reality.
effect because at least you know what they're trying to convey and it's real. It might not be like the most convincing thing, but it's like how many of us know what like a slit throat really looks like? Hopefully not
Right.
many.
But there's CGI stuff that will look cool and I'll forget about a week later. Whereas I still remember Conan fighting that freaking puppet snake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you knew it was something there and he was acting to the snake. And I think it was Ian McKellen was saying he had trouble sometimes when maybe it was Christopher Lee when he was doing the Lord of the Rings movies because they were acting to green screens. And he wasn't used to that. He wanted something physical and tangible to act against.
Yeah.
So
So
if when the effects don't fully hold up, like something like the Ray Harryhausen, like monsters and stuff like that, I just love it because somebody
there's a
took the
charm to
time
it.
to sit there and move that just like a tiny bit and take another pic and move it. The work that went into it, you can feel that versus I loaded it up on a screen and clicked a button and it made this monster appear, you know.
Yeah.
And then the effect at the very end where the funeral home like disappears, it kind of like flashes. They had the same guys who did like the effects on the original Star Trek series, and that's the same effect they used for when they teleported.
Right.
You know, people
that
disappeared and
makes
stuff.
sense.
So
I think the smartest thing Rob Zombie actually ever said was that he used CGI sparingly in his movies, and he tells the animators if it looks like CGI, then you didn't do it right.
Yeah.
And I respect that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Do you think like did Nightmare on Elm Street come out after this? It did, right?
Yeah,
The first
that
one?
was like 84.
84.
Yeah.
5
Do you think that
5
like
years
door when they're like pulling him through the door? Do you think that inspired the scene in Nightmare?
Yeah, I
was the
think
same thing.
I was actually thinking that like the whole
Yeah.
dream like state of this movie. I'm willing to bet Wes
Yeah.
Craven saw this and was like, I want to make something like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Although
Where,
Wes
like,
didn't love
getting
that last
pulled
scene
in and
though.
out of- Go ahead.
No, so Wes didn't want to do that last scene with the mother getting pulled to the window.
No.
Oh,
The
right.
studio made him put it in there to kind of set
Right.
up for a sequel. He wanted to end it with the girls just skipping rope, singing the Freddy song.
Yeah. I forgot about that. That's right.
Well, but I wouldn't doubt though if that's what he thought of though when they told him he had to tack something else on the onto the end of it.
Yeah. But I do think the vibe of this movie is very Nightmare on Elm Street because you don't know what of that movie is actually real, what's dream, and then you dream within a dream. I was saying the kid who plays Michael is really good in this.
He is.
He might be the best actor because there's some like the girl, like those that like fortune teller woman that he goes to see. There's some really rough acting in that scene.
Well, the fortune teller lady didn't say anything. Just she laughs at the end
or whatever.
Yeah, the granddaughter, whatever that was.
Yeah.
If they remade this movie nowadays, they could have Ozzy Osbourne play that fortune teller lady.
No, I've only seen the second sequel, and actually that came out like 10 years later, and it was done by Universal because I think this movie probably didn't do great at the box office, but once video came out, it probably had a good cult following, and they saw that and they like, okay, we'll see if we can get some more of that magic.
I've seen all of them.
Yeah, can you give us some impressions?
I'm unashamedly enjoy them all for what it's worth. I definitely think the last one, Ravager, was very ambitious. And from what I heard, they had the budget cut like massively before they started filming it. So there's a lot of pretty bad CGI in it. But basically, those spheres control the world. They just destroyed cities, and Reggie Bannister is basically there with some girl, a third of his age, trying to save the world. But
that's a typical plot point. That's a typical plot point in these movies. Reggie and some very young woman.
Yeah. I mean, that's freaking Hollywood in general. It's like if you're no problem being a 60-year-old man married to a 19-year-old in a movie, that's just fine. But you can't have an older woman in a movie married. Yeah. Hollywood bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, when I watched them in like, I don't know, towards the like late 90s, all three of the first ones, I think were out. Like, I know I watched like the whole first trilogy of them. And I remember liking the second one the best, but I was looking at like reviews and it has really bad reviews. So I'm not sure if that would like still hold up today, but it made me wonder about the other ones because I didn't even know there was a sixth film. But
just 5 films and the 6 is a novelization.
Okay.
I was trying to think about what that was.
So like, is the continuity like all the way through? Like by the time you get to the end, do you kind of like understand how everything works, or?
I wouldn't say you understand how everything works, but it fills in bits and pieces there.
Okay,
And,
gotcha.
they definitely explain more and more like where the tall man is kind of an alien interdimensional being that's kind of caused all this, that he's there to cause all this chaos. And they do eventually, I think in the second or third, they explain the other dimension that they go to and what they're doing with the bodies. It's just been, I watch the original all the time. Well, I say all the time, every couple of years at minimum, but I haven't watched the sequels in a while. But after watching this today, I know what I'm doing next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made me want to watch all of them again too, because it's been so long. I remember like when I watched it too, it was just weird enough that as a horror fan, I was like very on board for it, because I think when you're that age as like a 16-year-old or something, and you're trying to discover things that like nobody else has seen or that nobody has seen, anything that's like not gonna jive with the normies or whatever, I feel like I loved at the time. But I remember specifically, this is gonna date me, but I remember specifically, I watched the first one and then I really liked it. And so I told my dad about it because he's a horror fan. I was like, you got to watch the rest of these movies. Like, we have to watch them. But my dad used to, do you remember those really thick movie review books that like Roger Ebert and Leonard Maltin would put out? Yeah. So he would always check those. And if there weren't good reviews, like he would not watch the movie, and it had bad reviews. And I remember very specifically either Leonard Maltin or Roger Ebert saying that the silver sphere thing was like a vampiric Cuisinart, and just like cracking up at that.
Yeah. I mean, Ebert historically does not like horror movies, so
very
he
true.
did soften up on them a lot as he got older.
That's true. Yeah.
It's kind of funny because Ebert's one of those guys. If he liked a movie, I knew I was generally going to like it. But I also knew he was going to shit on like all the horror that I loved, and I just had
yeah. One person who is a big fan of this movie is J.J. Abrams, and to the point where he actually had his company do a remaster. So if you go on Amazon Prime Video, you can stream the remaster version. And,
that's what I watched.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah.
There's a bad robot logo at the very beginning.
There is a 4K version that only came out overseas, like in Germany, I think, and I've heard it's not that good of a cut. Like they didn't do a great job with the remaster, but you can still get the steel. Like I just bought that like 6 months ago, the steel book of the Blu-ray on Amazon for like $20.
Yeah, I had read earlier today that in the what was the first of the new Star Wars movies?
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. Yeah, the character of General Phasma was named after Phantasm.
That's so cool. I didn't know
that. That is cool.
Was such a fan of
like a big shiny,
nice.
The shiny one, like the shiny spheres.
Yeah. God, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So
I had that sphere as a Christmas ornament for my Christmas tree.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, I love that.
Nice.
All right. Well, I know I've heaped like a lot of praise on this movie because I do really love it, but I don't know if you guys are ready to move on or something. But just before we do, I just have to I have one complaint. My one complaint, and I want to preface this by saying that I know when this movie was made, and this is a problem with like many horror movies made at this time, but there are like no decent female characters in this entire movie.
Yeah.
They have, and the ones that are on screen, or it's either just boobs, or they have no lines, or they're killed off screen, or they're saved off screen, and we're just told that they're still alive. And the one like real character is the purple dress lady. I know she has like a
lavender lady.
Yeah. She's not even a real character. We know like she's not real, and like she also has no lines, and she
don't quote me on this, but I think in the last couple sequels of 4 and 5, I think they expand her backstory, and she's actually controlling the tall man or something like that. Like she's the overarching character. I think so. Don't quote me on that though. You might have to. No, but you're right though.
Watch all of them.
So you're saying that the late 70s horror fantasy prog rock movie doesn't pass the Bechdel test?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, Jason.
That's a valid criticism. Yeah. I'm with you on that because you're right too. And the only other female leads they have in there just get killed off screen, like in a car, and you never see them again.
Yeah. And Reggie's like, he says he like saves 2 of them by like tossing him out the window or something, but you never see any of that happen.
He said they ran off like bunnies or something. That's it.
Yeah. So stupid.
Also, one other thing I noticed that like Michael's like deathly afraid that Jodie's gonna leave him, not that their parents are dead. But then every chance he gets, Michael like tells Jodie like to stay here. I'm gonna go do something like over and over again. Like, he locks him in his room.
Hey, there's a lot of fucking in this graveyard going on, by the way. Like, I don't know. I don't come from a small town, but is that like a small town thing? Everyone just fucks in the graveyard?
Hey, I have a graveyard literally across the street from my house. I walk out the front door. There's a graveyard like just to the left out across the road.
We got a spicy.
I have not seen anything happening in there at night, but maybe I'm going at the wrong time. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, by the time the movie was over, I was like, am I missing out that I've never had this experience? Like,
Jodie says he hasn't seen anything there. He didn't say he hasn't participated in anything.
Oh, yeah. Good That's a good point.
Like I definitely went to some graveyards, some girls, and I was in high school. I was a black metal guy, edgy as fuck, obviously, right? But I never went as far as these guys did in the graveyard.
Nice. All right, let's do a quick thumbs up, thumbs down on whether you recommend this movie. Mondo, what do you give this?
Fucking 2 thumbs up. And if I had 4 arms like Goro from Mortal Kombat, I'd give it 4.
Jodie.
Yeah, no, this is a great movie. It's an experience. Every horror fan should see this at least once.
All right, Ariel.
Yeah, totally agree. Would completely recommend.
Oh, yes, I agree too. 2 thumbs up and a ball to the face.
I just have to say, Jason, that we were talking about boning in a graveyard, and you didn't deny that you've done that. So, is there something you want to tell us?
No, trust me.
I mean, if Jason went to a graveyard, he would be the tall man.
That's
yeah,
true.
very
That's
much.
a good point.
All right, let's take a quick break for a shout out.
Hi, I'm Libby Letlow from the Fur Baby segment of VHS Beyond. Now get back in your cage and go listen to more Dads from the Crypt.
All right.
I'm oddly turned on right now. Yeah.
Speaking of interesting places. All right, Mondo, give us your song of the day.
I picked a band on the nose because I can't use Left Hand Path again because I did that before. There's a band from Los Angeles, a thrash metal band, because that's where all the thrash metal bands, not all of them, but in the United States, most of them came from California in the 80s, called Phantasm. But the fun part is it featured 2 prominent members. One, Ron McGovney, if you guys know who that is. Mm-hmm. He was Metallica's original bassist before he left didn't leave the band, but they got Cliff Burton. He goes, yeah, that's the guy. I'm not as good as he is. Definitely take that guy. And the other gentleman in it is a guy who's still performing with Hyrax to this day, Keaton De Pena, who's also kind of notable as being a person of color back then in the thrash metal scene, was almost in the metal scene in general, was almost unheard of, and it's still pretty rare today, sad to say. It's a very homogenized genre for the most part. So it did feature both of them, and they really only released a few demos, and then back in the early 2000s, all their demos were compiled onto a record called Wreckage. So it's easy to find. It's on Apple Music, Spotify, anywhere you want to check it out. But the song I picked, I just went very easy and picked a song that makes sense because much like the Cybertrucks getting blown to oblivion because they're not safe to drive, the hearse got blown to oblivion, and the song is called Blown to Oblivion. Check it out from some kind of icons in thrash. Is it great? No, but it has, much like this movie, it has that early or to mid 80s DIY musical atmosphere where you can tell it's just I think a couple of the guys in the band, I think the oldest person in the band was Ron McGovney at 22, and everybody else was like in their teens. So it's kind of not that young, but like 17 to 19 or something like that. But definitely check it out. It's kind of cool. That early DIY musical stylings.
Nice. Thank you, Mondo.
You're welcome, Jason.
Jodie, give us some horror news.
All right. First, I want to follow up with something we talked about last week, just because I watched one of the movies that I recommended last time, Borderline. It's the new one with Samara Weaving and Ray Nicholson, directed by the guy who wrote Cocaine Bear. apparently produced by Margot Robbie's production company too. So there's a whole lot of people involved in this. Anyway, it's good. It's fun. It's a good time. Sillier than I expected, but there's some really great moments in it. Let's talk releases. Releasing, I guess, tonight. We have Locked and Ash both come out tonight. Locke's the one that's got Bill Skarsgård and Anthony Hopkins in a car. I honestly don't know much about this movie, but I hear a lot of people going to see it this weekend, so I'll find out more. And then Ash is the newest one by Flying Lotus, so you know it's going to be weird. But again, that's about all I know about either of these releases, and they're both theatrical, so I'm kind of excited that movies are weird enough and slipping past my radar enough that I don't even know what they are when they're showing up.
Yeah, Ash, I know it's produced by Shudder, so I'm assuming it'll be on there at some point. And it looks like some sort of sci-fi dystopian, maybe. I saw the trailer like weeks ago, but I'm very interested in that one. Looks cool. Yeah, it's very interesting visual flair.
Yeah. And that's Flying Lotus. Like Flying Lotus is all about those interesting visuals. So also, if you go see Ash, you get to see the first trailer for Clown in a Cornfield because it's streaming there, or it's there exclusively when you go watch Ash. But speaking of trailers, well, hang on. Before we get to trailers, one more release tomorrow, the 21st of March. Popeye the Slayer Man comes out. I know everyone's been waiting for this one. This is the second Popeye movie this year. The first one already came out about a month ago. I will be revisiting the public domain horror later on in this same segment. All right, trailers. Lots of trailers have come out in the last few days, teaser trailers. So I want to talk about some of them. The first one that I want to mention, because we talked about it last time, is the Toxic Avenger got their first teaser trailer. And I said last week I was a little hesitant after seeing Peter Dinklage's makeup. After seeing this trailer, 100% on board. It brought me right back in. It is a trauma movie. There is no question. Yes. And
I haven't seen it yet, but that makes me happy.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks really, it looks trauma good. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. There's a different level of good, a different kind of good for a trauma movie.
I don't think Toxie works with it if it was done Hollywood style.
No, exactly.
I think something about the promo stuff that they had been putting out originally made me think of something like a little glossier, higher budget version. But this is not that, and that's good. That's what it needs to be.
Yes.
So yeah, this. I do not know why music suddenly started playing on my computer just now. I'm not even on a trailer.
I can't hear it, so go.
I just got very confused. A trailer started playing. That's what it is. The trailer for Together also just came out. This is the new one with Alison Brie and Dave Franco. It's like a romantic body horror. I don't fully understand what's going on in this movie, but it looks interesting. It's got that thing that I kind of hate, but also that gets me every time when somebody is pulling hair out of their throat, like in a scene. It gives me
yeah, gross.
And I think that one. Oh no, I'm thinking of a different one. Never mind.
There's another trailer too that's also gross body horror that I sent you earlier. But yeah, Together looks interesting. We also got a trailer for Dangerous Animals, which is the new one from Sean Byrne, who directed The Loved Ones and The Devil's Candy, and it's a shark movie from Sean Byrne. So I'm fully in. Jai Courtney is in this one. Australian filmmaker making a shark movie, and he makes these really dark, he's got a feel to him.
Well, this one looks like a serial killer movie,
it does.
but with sharks. Where he's feeding his victims to sharks is what it looks like.
Yeah,
okay, you're speaking my language. That sounds
great.
great.
Yeah, I'm like, okay.
And I love The Loved Ones. I love The Devil's Candy. So I like shark movies in general. So definitely down for that. We also have a trailer for The Ugly Stepsister, and this is probably the one you were thinking of, Jason. They're calling it Cinderella Meets Cronenberg. It's the ugly stepsister trying to become more beautiful. And in the trailer, this trailer is very squirm-inducing because I read Megan Navarro's review of this movie. They use a lot of like actual 18th century like surgical techniques in great detail in the movie.
Ooh.
Like to reshape her nose, there's a chisel put up to her nose and smacked down with a hammer while she screams. It's a lot. And I'm both into this and also very concerned with how this movie's going to make me feel. It's very uncomfortable.
I didn't watch the trailer. I saw the poster for it, and I want to know more. I just want to go in there blind because it looks crazy.
It's a very uncomfortable trailer. I'll tell you that.
Like, well, we were talking just a minute ago about the IP movies, the public domain, and like they're making such a big mistake by making every single one of them like a slasher, but with Winnie the Pooh, but with this. Like, imagine like a Winnie the Pooh like body horror. Or like, or Popeye the Slayer Man as a body horror movie where he's like giving people these huge arms or something crazy like that. Like I feel like at least like
totally
I'm thinking
that would
you
be,
could at
that's
least like
actually a
take
really
those.
good idea.
You could take those movies and like put them in different genres. They could still be in horror, but like a cosmic horror Mickey Mouse movie. Like
of the public domain type movies, this Ugly Stepsister one looks like one of the most interesting ones I've seen.
Now, is it directly a Cinderella movie, or are they just like comparing it, or is it just like very loosely?
I think it's a take on that. It's a Norwegian movie, and I believe it actually is a like direct take on the.
Interesting.
I could be wrong about that, but a one that is though a very direct thing is this one just looks okay. I know, but I wanted to mention it because we talk about the public domain stuff. The Death of Snow White trailer just came out. It looks okay. I know at one point it talks about the dwarves going crazy. So that's fun. Like a bunch of little people out there killing soldiers. It looks pretty straight. It looks like a pretty straight adaptation of Cinderella or Snow White, honestly. So I don't.
I could like make them like crazy cannibals, kind of like Texas Chainsaw meets Snow White and Seven Dwarfs.
That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Why aren't they hiring you to come up with these ideas? Because like Popeye body horror, that makes so much sense. Like, do you remember in Love Lies Bleeding, those are all those body horror scenes with like the know the muscles and like the veins popping out? Or Winnie the Pooh, like in the cartoon, his like fluff is always coming out and he's always coming unraveled. You could do like a real gross version of that.
Oh yeah, I like that.
That'd be cool.
And then one last trailer that I'm talking about mainly because I like the title of it, but we got a trailer for Big Freaking Rat. It's a movie about a big freaking rat, a big mutant rat, like bigger than a horse kind of rat, and looks like a big practical monster. Like there's a head, and then there's claws and all this, like that are actually like practical things. I love monster movies, even cheap monster movies. So I'm down to check this one out.
So it's a rat of unusual size.
It is a rat of unusual size.
But yeah, it's also got Felissa Rose, so I kind of have to see it.
Yeah. My cat just opened the door.
That was a rat.
Yeah.
Jody,
imagine if your cat
squeaky.
Imagine if your cat just brought you a dead rat.
Just in time for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then two little pieces of news that are not trailer or release related. This is actually the opposite of release. Saw 11 seems like it has been canceled. All reports started that it's been dead in the water for a while.
Like, is it like a financial thing or like production just fell
It
apart?
was the production team cannot get along from what I was reading earlier.
Yikes.
That there was a lot of conflict between the producers fighting with one another, and it became a mess.
I thought Saw 10 was fantastic, but I don't think we need. Again, I could be wrong. I don't think we need a sequel to that though.
I do think the last one was a good, like, okay, we gave Tobin Bell his like really good acting platform. So I'm kind of, I'd say I'm okay with that because I'd be interested to see if whatever they can come up with that makes any sense. Sure. And also, like, he hasn't got that much longer to like be making these kind of movies.
Damn, Jason.
Please.
I'm just saying. He's
saying what? I'm just
And he's had like brain cancer for like 20 years now. So
yeah. And then my last piece of news. I really want to up our Patreon subscriptions because of this one. Tom Sullivan, the prop master who did The Evil Dead, is selling off a bunch of old props, including the original screen used Necronomicon.
What? Oh my god!
Starting at 25,000, probably going to go for somewhere between 50 and 100,000.
Damn it! Why am I not rich? That's
why I'm
annoying.
saying we need to really up these Patreon subscriptions
Yeah.
because I need the Necronomicon.
Yeah, if you have that, you're like the king among horror fans.
That's right.
You know?
It doesn't get better than that.
No.
So I got into like a couple Facebook groups for like really serious prop collectors. And first of all, it's very, very expensive. So, but like I hear like them talking about all this stuff. It's like, yeah, I saw that there's a bunch of like Nightmare on Elm Streets, some Terminator 2 stuff. Like there's some really cool stuff. But also like the houses take like a 20% cut, like on top of what the bid is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Dang.
a very, very expensive.
Well,
I almost bought a critter from Critters 2 that was like part of the critter ball. Critter head. I seriously considered it, but then stuff came up. I was like, no, I was probably spending money on that.
Yeah. Some other things you could buy if you don't want the Necronomicon or it's a little too rich. Deadite Shelley's burned facial appliances.
Mm-hmm.
That's only a $1,500 to $3,000 purchase.
Well, that's suggested. Those are suggested. So
yeah. A Book of the Dead prototype, Linda's necklace, the magnifying glass necklace. That'd be awesome to have. Kundarian dagger, Linda's special effects leg, her deadite head, all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, and also those are public auctions. You have to like sign up, but it's kind of fun because there was like they had the lighter that Brad Pitt uses in this Tales from the Crypt episode. Mm-hmm. I thought about bidding on it. I made one official bid, but I got outbid very quickly, and I wasn't willing to go any higher. But you can actually sit there and watch them like do the whole bidding process. It's very fascinating, like while you're working from home something. Just put on the backgrounds.
Well, and some of the other things you can buy at this particular auction, you can get a production-made Michael Myers mask from Halloween 5, which is by far the worst Michael Myers mask. You can own it in your own house. Let's see. They had
the pieces of the power loader from Aliens, like chunks of it that you can get.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
The TV, the like cable controlled animatronic puppet from Nightmare on Elm Street 3, the like Little Freddy. Yeah, all that's available.
They had the TV too with his head coming out of the TV, and I think the starting bid on that was like $25,000 as well. I'm like,
dang it.
Yeah.
Ghostface mask from the new Scream. A bloodied, smashed Bill Skarsgård head from Barbarian. So yeah, all kinds of good stuff. If you happen to have a whole lot of money, then you could buy all kinds of cool stuff.
A lot of money.
Patreon.com/dads from the crypt.
The stickers don't come for free. Well, thank you, Jody. Before we wrap up, Ariel, what's going on with the Zombie Grrlz and the More Deadly?
Yeah. So we now are recording every single week, releasing a new episode every week, which has been really fun. And we're doing what you guys do on video live, which is a new experience for me. Rachel kept pushing it. I'm not a fan of cameras, but we're doing that now. And so far it's been great to have people like interacting with us. So you can find More Deadly wherever you get your podcasts. We focus on women-directed horror movies. And then at ZG Podcasts on like every single social media platform that exists.
We're not live, but I have told Jason we should do live.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
He said no.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with Jason there.
Yeah, there's pluses and minuses because stuff just kind of happens, and I want to have some control. I don't mind doing video.
Yeah.
It's
just for, like the live is just for our patrons so far, but like but things
I would do live
happen.
for a small group, but not for the whole public.
Mondo, he's
Cats are
telling us that
unpredictable.
he's afraid that this podcast is going to go off the rails at some point, and we're going to say
Oh
something.
yeah, I know
wild.
exactly who this is aimed at.
That is
Let's
the
take
risk,
that.
right?
But yeah, I don't always listen because I usually like to watch the movie, and I always have time to watch every movie. But sometimes I'll listen to yours as banter before your episodes on More Deadly. That's really fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Rachel likes to tease me. It's a fun time.
Any notable interviews you've done recently with female directors?
No, we have some coming up.
Anything like these?
But nothing that's come out. No, I can't right now. But but yeah, we
Okay.
haven't gotten to do as many in the last couple of months, sadly. But yeah, we're hoping to do more in the future.
Nice.
All right. Anything else you want to plug or promote?
Me?
Yeah, you.
No, I mean, you can also, if you're looking for like more time with Rachel, me, and our friend Matilda, you can also find us on Bloody Good Horror a lot. We do that most weeks.
Mhm.
So
Nice. All right. Well, that wraps up another episode. Again, Ariel, thank you for joining us. Where can any socials people can follow you on?
yeah, just at ZG Podcasts everywhere, and then more.deadly on TikTok now.
Ooh.
We're trying that out. We'll see. I don't feel like I'm quite like Gen Z enough to be on TikTok, but we're trying.
I don't
it out.
understand it. I don't
No.
understand TikTok. Like, do
No.
people just dance and point at shit and words?
No,
I
no,
don't know.
God,
I
no.
don't
I mean,
get
there
it.
is that, but like TikTok, your algorithm is so like tailored to you. So if you don't like that stuff, you're never gonna see it.
Yeah.
Like I see way more about like women's sports and queer stuff and politics and I don't know, hoof trimming videos and like just
I
weird
love
shit.
those.
Yeah, mine's politics and comedy videos for the most
Mhm.
part.
Yeah.
You curate that thing. It doesn't take much work. It's a good
No.
algorithm.
But like when you first open it, it is just going to be people dancing or doing silly things. So,
Okay, maybe
It
get
pretty
deeper into
quickly
it.
catches up, though.
yep.
We
'Cause I
actually
want
had
more
a
of this
video.
horse trimming videos because I like thinking along. Like, yeah, I do think that's the bad area of the hoof. Yeah, show me more.
Right. Like I've never touched a horse's hoof before, but I am an expert on this now.
Right. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone for listening. We'd really appreciate if you give us a rating review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify, subscribe on our YouTube, and follow us at Dads from the Crypt Talk on TikTok. With that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Goodbye.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.